Pearse Doherty, thank you. Deputy Pearse Doherty.
Minister, last night every voting member of the Cyprus Parliament rejected the demands of the Troika and the Eurogroup, and I must say to them, I say well done, because despite being a small partitioned island, despite having just a population of just above 1 million people, about the size of Munster, they sent out a very clear signal that they wouldn't be pushed around. And I'll refer you to the President of Cyprus. He made an address to the nation, a televised address to the nation, and in his address to the nation he's reported as saying that he felt blackmailed into signing up to this deal. A deal that was an unprecedented assault on an EU's country sovereignty and the raiding of people's bank accounts in that country. He claims that he was blackmailed by the Eurogroup, Minister, and you know that Minister Michael Noonan is a member of that same group. The Eurogroup have crossed the line, Minister, and Michael Noonan should have said stop. The bullies got carried away with themselves, and now we're in the farcical situation that a country within the Eurozone can't even reopen its banks. Depositors in many European states are in fear now because the line has been crossed by the Eurogroup and by Minister Michael Noonan, which says that depositors can have levies imposed on them. Minister, the Irish government shouldn't have signed up to this blackmail. For a country such as ours, who has had its corporation tax in the firing line, it is foolish in the extreme to agree to the type of deal that enforced Cyprus to increase theirs. And why was this government party to forcing Cyprus to raid the savings of EU citizens to pay for the banking mistakes of others, while at the same time that senior bondholders got off scot-free?
Thank you.
Minister, can I say, instead of piling pressure onto the Cypriot people, what we should have been doing is standing in solidarity with them and insisting that the Eurogroup statement of last June was agreed to in full and in principle. And that meant that the ESM should be the vehicle that recapitalised Cypriot banks, not people's savings. Minister, can I ask you this? How can this government, with any legitimacy, argue for retroactive recapitalisation of our banks, i.e. we want the €30 billion back that we pumped into the pillar banks, when we've just agreed that we will not have a separation of sovereign and banking debt in Cyprus, that it would be the people of Cyprus who would bear the brunt of that there? Does it not make a mockery out of the position that this government has adopted? And how can we say that corporation tax is sacred, given that we agreed to force the Cyprus people to increase theirs, and the Taoiseach welcomed that statement?
Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. The first thing, can I just give some clarity on the corporation tax issue, because I think it's important that people don't try and muddy the waters here. As part of an agreement to finance a programme in Cyprus, Cyprus, as well as the other countries in the Eurogroup, signed up to an increase in corporation tax rates. You will remember, Deputy, that when Ireland was negotiating a bailout, and both before that and after that, there was significant pressure on Ireland to do the same. And we resisted it, to the credit of the last government. And in fact, as soon as this government took office, people will remember that the first challenge that our Taoiseach faced in Brussels was huge pressure to increase corporation tax rates because of the vulnerable position that Ireland found itself in. We resisted that. And we showed that when a country wants to resist in relation to tax, they can do so, because unanimous agreement is required before that would take place. Cyprus decided not to take that option. They decided that actually, as part of the package, they would increase corporation tax rates, and of course they were entitled to do that. There is no easy way to enter a bailout programme. And anybody who offers fairy tale solutions in terms of finding an easy way to recapitalise banks without it costing anybody anything is simply not living in the real world. This is a crisis. This is a crisis for a country that is entering a bailout, just like we faced a crisis that was hugely costly for Irish people, and we are now trying to undo some of the damage that was done when those decisions were made from an Irish perspective. We now have a position where the Parliament in Cyprus has rejected the deal that was done by their government and by the Eurogroup, and that is understandable, I have to say. But there is now a responsibility on Cyprus to find an alternative way of raising money, and they are talking about the alternatives today and will again tomorrow. Banks in Cyprus are different to banks in many other European countries because of the, well, first of all, because of the size of the banking system and the deposits that are held in Cyprus versus the size of the Cypriot economy. The banks are about 8 times the size of the Cypriot economy. Much of that money has come from outside of the Eurozone and the European Union. In fact, much of it has come from Russia. And so it is not an easy thing to do, to simply apply a normal banking recapitalisation programme for banks that are primarily capitalised with Russian money and not from European banks at all. So this is a complex situation that is developing day by day. And countries like Ireland, in solidarity with countries like Cyprus, will look for solutions and will look to be helpful as a presidency if we can be, as will the Commission. But ultimately, there is no easy way out here. They do need to raise significant amounts of money in order to trigger the €10 billion bailout fund, which is on offer. And we will have to monitor the situation and be as helpful as we can be during that process.
Thank you. Deputy Doherty.
Cyprus deals in the euro. And last June, there was a seismic shift, as your government called it, which was about separating sovereign debt and banking debt. The Cyprus banks need billions of euro. That is what the bailout is for. There has been an agreement that the ESM is the vehicle that bails out European banks that is operating in the euro. The reason we are hopeful of getting some of our money back is because the ESM didn't exist when we bailed out our own banks here. Now, the question is, does it not undermine the argument of this government when this government has signed up to a small European euro nation to actually say, no, the ESM isn't going to bail out European banks? And forget about the seismic shift last June. You actually have to do it yourself. We'll provide you with a loan, which is the maximum that you can have, and then the rest will have to come from increases of taxation, additional austerity of the Cyprus people, and the raiding of bank levies or bank savings. Does it not make it just a fool out of the government's position that if you ask a small nation to do the same as we were forced to do a number of years ago, then how can we legitimately argue for retroactive recapitalisation of our banks?
Thank you.